All right, 1 second here. Oh, there we go. Maybe. All right, 1 second here. All right, 1 second here. All right, so we're holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Again, holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. And we go off because of Hanukkah. We're holding by verse 7. We're still working our way through verse 7. And the Torah says, "Below Yizbuchu Hoyd as Zivchayim, L'Seirim, Shem Zoinim Achareim, Puka Zoilam Tiazois Lam L'Doroisim." So again, the Torah says over here, don't slaughter sacrifices, right? Do not slaughter any sacrifices to demons, right? We spoke about demons, still speak about demons, after whom they go astray. It should be an eternal decree, then for all generations. Now, we said before, I want to finish up the Kli Yakar over here, one of the great commentators on the Torah. Then we said before, what does this verse look like? This verse looks like that that there's an issue because of idolatry, right? That's the way it looks. That people would say, okay, according to the simple meaning of the verse, you're not allowed to bring sacrifices to demons. So we're going to speak about demons a little bit. We see the Rabbeinu Bachai after this, but one point that the Kli Yakar makes that we mentioned, right? I think Ibn Ezra said a similar thing, and that is this was not avodah zarah. This was not idolatry. Idolatry forbidden for Jews. Idolatry forbidden for the Noahites, right? For B'nai Noach, as one of the 7 Noahide laws, death penalty, right? Death penalty for non-Jews. Now, not every transgression of the Noahide laws is death penalty. Some are. But over here, the Kli Yakar and others say, this is not idolatry. Now, what are the common cases of idolatry? What did you have to do to transgress idolatry? Bow down to it, sacrifice to it, wine libation, right? That's pretty severe. Now, what happens? Just throw this out there, then we'll go further. Actually, I just want to finish one part here. And that is, there are some commands or some transgressions, let's say better. Let's say transgress it verbal, right? Or you don't do the physical act. Let's say in a person's minds, they say, this is my God, right? Here's Bob. Don't leave home without him, right? This is my God. If you say it, you're taking on the fact that what? It's like he's your God. That's forbidden. That is idolatry, right? Even verbalizing it is idolatry. You don't worship it, right? You're not bowing down to it right now. You are not sacrificing to it. No wine libation, but you're taking on this thing. This Bob has power, which he doesn't have. Right? That's idolatry. You're giving something a power it doesn't have. Now, we'll make it a little more dodgy, as the English would say. And that is, what if I do it in my mind? What if in my mind, not mine, let's say someone else's mind, they say, JC is my God. Or show little fat guy, Mr. Buddha himself is my God. Right? Fatso is my God. Big mitzvah make fun of idolatry. Right? I don't think a person's going to say Fatso is my God, but okay. Right? Mr. Buddha is my God. Right? That's what they say. In their mind. Now, someone's going to say, isn't there a Talmudic dictum? The Talmudic dictum says, what? Devarim shebaleinu devarim. Words in my heart don't mean anything. If words in my heart don't mean anything, I didn't do anything wrong. Right? What did I do wrong over here? Seemingly, I didn't do anything wrong. If I didn't do anything wrong, right? If I didn't do anything wrong, it should be a problem. So, there are a few things, there are only a few commands that a person can transgress in your mind. Because most things you say or you think in your mind do not matter, in general. I mean, it's a whole long discussion. Maybe we'll hit it for a second. Yeah. In other words, if I say something, if I think something, does that mean I did anything? I didn't do an action, right? It doesn't lead to an action per se. I think something, right? Do we say machshava k'maisa? My thoughts, machshava, is like my maisa, like my action. So, for the vast majority of things, the answer is no. What I think doesn't matter, right? In general, it will not matter, will not have any accountability whatsoever. Nothing, doesn't do anything. Because my thoughts are my thoughts. Now, someone will say, what if they're heretical thoughts? What if they're idolatrous thoughts? Then it depends. If it's something like idolatry, there are two things that the Torah says pretty clear. There are two things that God absolutely cannot stand. Right? Many, many prohibitions that the Torah says. One of them is idolatry, and one of them is immorality. Right? Well, God hates stealing also. Right? The flood, story of the flood. But even though there was idolatry going on during that generation, even though it was absolute immorality going on in that generation, Rashi says, by the flood, what was the seal of that generation? How did they get killed? What was the final blow that God said, okay, I have to wipe them out? What was the final blow? Stealing. Now, people would steal in such a way that they weren't liable. Couldn't take them to court. They stole less than the value of a pruta in general. Something you can't get them for. Right? So society will break down. Totally break down. So God says, I have to wipe the world out. Because even though stealing's not death penalty, maybe for non-Jews could be, right? And the Noahide laws, for a Jew, it's not a death penalty. Definitely not a death penalty. But if stealing goes crazy, society can't function. And guess what? We see that today. You see in places, person, steals from a store. They can't prosecute them in some places unless they steal more than $1,000. That is a total breakdown of society. So God came along and said, I can't let this happen. Society will not function. Because if people steal a little bit from somebody and someone else steals a little bit more, and someone else some more, and someone else some more, they're going to steal the person's entire place. They'll steal everything they own. They can't get prosecuted. So you're going to say, but that's not one of the big three that if someone put a gun to your head and say, transgress this or I'm going to kill you, you have an obligation to give up your life for. One of them is murder, one of them is idolatry, one of them is immorality. Right? So if a Jew or non-Jew put a gun to your head, to a Jew does not apply to a non-Jew here, right? They put a gun to your head and say, I want you to murder this person, I'm going to kill you. You're not allowed to. That is forbidden. You have to be willing to die, right? In such a case. So that's by murder, that's by idolatry, that's by immorality. Stealing's not up there. Stealing's not one of the big three you have to give up your life for rather than transgress. It's only idolatry, murder, and immorality. So Rashi says, what happened to the people of the flood? There are all kinds of terrible things going on there. Right? You had murder, you had idolatry, immorality, and everything in between. But the final seal of their death and their destruction was what? Stealing. Because stealing is the basis of society. This is why non-Jews, they have to set up law courts. One of the 7 Noahide laws. They have to set up law courts. What's the purpose of law courts? Keeping order. If you didn't have law courts, imagine how much worse it would be. And then when we do have law courts, you see how bad it can be. Because, people go through the law courts and throw them out. People in jail, they knock them out. Not in jail. Don't put them in jail. There's no deterrent for someone almost not do anything. Right? Depending on what it is, not going to go to jail. That's a total breakdown of society. Right? So Rashi says the other things are worse. You're right. Murder is worse. Idolatry is worse. A lot worse. But if you have everyone acting, and stealing and being able to get away with it, that society gets destroyed. That's a total breakdown of society. Yeah, so there are two things. Even if a person does not act on it, right? Let's get back to the point here. There are two things that even if a person doesn't act on it, they are going to get punished even if they think it. One of them is idolatry. And what's the other? Immorality. Now you're going to say, but I didn't act on it. I didn't do anything. Yeah, let's say. There's a guy talking here. Let's say you didn't do anything. Nothing happened physically. Keep this PG-13, right? Or even less, right? Nothing happened. So what's the problem? What's the problem? You did it to yourself. Okay. Right? So it's brought down that even if a person has these thoughts, men or women, doesn't really matter. They have these thoughts. It's forbidden. Right? In this case, it's forbidden. You didn't act on it. You didn't technically do anything wrong. But again, there are two things that God hates more than anything else. Idolatry and immorality. So that a person could pay the price even if they think it. Even if they do not act on it. By anything else, we don't say that. So you say, where's the logic? Makes a lot of sense. Right? Because if you look at all the verses in the Torah, and you see, especially among the 10 Commandments, how many verses there are against idolatry. How many verses there are against idolatry. Don't make, molten images. Don't make images. Don't bow down to them. Right? Many, many times. And on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, the afternoon service at Mincha, what verses do they read? Leviticus Chapter 18. We're not there yet. I don't know when we're going to get there, but we'll get there one day. And what are those verses all about? Most of the chapter is about immorality. Right? It's about immorality. So you think of the holiest day of the year. People are fasting. People are repenting. People are working on themselves. Tremendously holy day. You're going to tell me by the afternoon service, your stomach's grumbling. You probably have a headache by now because you haven't ate, you haven't drank anything. And now they're going to read in front of everybody these verses on that day of the year. I can think of other days to read it. I wouldn't necessarily think on Yom Kippur. You got to read something so severe, so to speak. So even on Yom Kippur, you got to be in control. Even on the holiest day of the year. You would think that's obsolete. Why would they make us read it? Why would the Torah say this is what you have to read? This is your obligation to read on the holiest day of the year. Because God knows the teva. He knows the nature of a person. Even on that day, right? You have people that you never see in synagogue the whole year. When do you see them? Doom and gloom, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Right? Rosh Hashanah all about judgment. Yom Kippur all about repentance. It's really doom and gloom the whole time. That's why they call them the days of awe. They're awesome days. Right? Who by fire, who by water. Right? Who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. Who's going to be rich, who's going to be poor. About judgment. That's what Rosh Hashanah is, even for non-Jews. Most non-Jews not aware. Right? But even non-Jews, they're going to be obligated here. Right? Meaning they're going to be judged. Yom Kippur, repentance, huge day. Huge day. So you come into these days and, these are people, some people, depending where obviously we go to synagogue, some people, that's the only time of the year they show up. You don't see them on Shabbos, you don't see them on festivals, that's the only time. You see them, maybe that's their Jewish soul saying, I have to go to synagogue, at least for a couple hours on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I got to fulfill my obligation. What they're there for, no idea. Not necessarily there to pray, but I'm not going to go there. That's a whole nother discussion. But the point is, they're there on that day. Now, when they're there on that day, how does the person go to synagogue in general, especially on the high holy days? You're right. You're dressed to kill. Right? A person should be dressed up. Yeah. So women are going to be dressed to kill also. Hey, but if there's a separation, it should be an issue. You're right. If there's a proper separation, you don't see the women very good. If there's a mixture, it's a problem. Right? There's definitely a problem. You're going to say, you got to control yourself, control your thoughts. You're right. But how can a person, you want to pray to God, there's a distraction. There's a distraction there. For men and women. It goes both ways. For men and women. We're not going to just, throw men under the bus. We could do that. But, women also. Women also no different. But if they're there dressed like that, especially in the holiest day of the year, you're going to say, well, there shouldn't be intermingling. You're right. People shouldn't be trying to look at the other side. Right. But inevitably, things happen. So even on that day of the year, you got to be reminded. Forbidden relationships are forbidden. You got to be reminded even on that day. I never would have thought such a thing. Most people would have said, come on. Yom Kippur, you read parts of the Torah speak about Yom Kippur. Okay, we do that also. That we do in the morning service. So maybe you find other verses speak about it or whatever, but speak about immorality. Right? Absolute immorality. I mean, there you got homosexuality. You got bestiality. You got all the good stuff. With immorality, everything in between. You got more than 20 verses. All about immorality. So even on the holiest day of the year. So you say a person's mind's there on the holiest day of the year? You got to be in control at all times. Right? So there are two things. There are two things a person can be punished for by their thoughts without even doing anything, without any action. One of them is immorality, and the other is idolatry. Right? So, why I get on to that point? Because the Kuyakar over here said this idea of demons that they're going to worship, they're going to sacrifice. What was the language? Sacrifice, I think. They're going to sacrifice and no longer slaughter their sacrifices to demons. There's a Torah command not to sacrifice to demons. We said demons don't have any power today. right? They're much weakened today. In the time of the Talmud, yeah, rabbis came in contact with him. They hang out in certain places. We're going to see if I get there, right? What their purpose is in general. But you know about sacrifice. Now, what does that sound like? That sounds like idolatry, right? Everyone would agree. Everyone would agree that should be idolatry, right? And that's going to be forbidden. 100%. 100%. So idolatry. Yeah. So the Sforno we mentioned a few weeks back, right? The Sforno says very clear, it's not idolatry. They did not sacrifice the demon. Even though now, we'll see the difference here in a second. The Sforno said that they didn't sacrifice to them, but they accepted upon themselves that they were a god. Right? That's what they did. That's what they did. They sacrificed, they not sacrificed to them, but they took upon themselves that they were at the power of a god. So even if they didn't sacrifice, what would we say? What does that sound like in the vernacular? Idolatry. Even if they didn't sacrifice to them. The fact is they say, this is my God. Here's Bob. Here's my God. Yeah. That's idolatry. That 100% is idolatry. So the whole discussion here by the Sforno, what went on there, it comes along the Kli Yakar. Kli Yakar says, first of all, it's not idolatry. Like the Ramban said before, chapter 16, verse 8, where he talked about there were two goats, right? And this whole thing we talked about before, is a sacrificial service on what day? On Yom Kippur. So they drew lots. One lot said to Hashem, it said to God, this goat's going to get sacrificed. The other lot said, well, Azazael, that's going on this other goat. But that other goat, remember, it's not a sacrifice. That other goat was sent out to the desert, right? And other forces in the desert took care of it, threw it off a cliff, whatever happened to it, right? That's the whole issue way back. You watch my videos on that, spent many weeks going through it, and Leviticus Chapter 17, verse 8, you go look at my YouTube channel at Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, right? My YouTube channel over there. You click on the playlist of Book of Leviticus, it'll be there. And there's a whole discussion, the Ramban's got a lengthy discussion, and the Rebbeinu B'chaye and others. The question is, it says, this one's for gods, this one's for Azazel. Now, when the Torah says it's for Azazel, right? What's the problem? What's the obvious question? Obvious question is, Azazel means another god, another deity. That's what it sounds like. So, the whole discussion, why it doesn't mean that, right? Why it's impossible, very simple. If you're going to say, this is the God, this is Hashem, this is the God, and this is the Azazel, that's idolatry. That's giving it a power it doesn't have. Right? But, see, if we didn't have any commentary, and this is where, we'll digress the drop, because we're going to say, what about the Karaites? Karaites don't, they don't get oral law, right? They don't hold by oral law. They take things literally. Okay. So now, according to the Karaites, they have to have an interpretation here. If the Torah says, this lot, when you pick this lot, it's Hashem, meaning this goat's going to get sacrificed. That's what it means. And this lot says, La Azazel, right? This lot says La Azazel. What does that sound like? Simple explanation. No oral law, no rabbis, no nothing. What does it sound like? This is going to God, this is going to somewhere else. Someone else. Some other power. Some other deity. That's what it sounds like. Now, by internal logic, I don't need the rabbis for this. I don't need oral law for this. By internal logic, what would I say? That's an impossible interpretation, which all the commentaries say. What's the internal logic? Because the Torah already said many, many times, especially as part of the Ten Commandments, you cannot serve idols. Serving idols, death penalty. The death penalty. Forbidden for Jews and non-Jews. But here we're talking about Jews. So then we'll ask the $1 million question. And the $1 million question is, then what is Azazel over here? It cannot be that that lot fell on this goat for the sake of idolatry. Cannot be. Idolatry is forbidden. This is the holiest day of the year. Why in the world would we think that's permissible? It's idolatry. Right? So the Ramban, the Rabbeinu B'chai, they go to town over here, explaining why it cannot be, and trying to explain what Azazel is. But again, without them, without their commentary, without knowing anything about oral law, if I read it literally, which you can't, this is one of the reasons, and I mention this all the time, that this is one of the reasons you look at what the Torah says, and you say, doesn't it sound like, it sounds like idolatry. You know, in Sodom, God says, let us see what's going on in Sodom. Who's we? English will be happy. It's the plural we, right? It's the plural we over here. Who's he talking to? The Rashi says God showed his humility, and he's talking the heavenly court to see what's going on. He's going to take counsel of the heavenly court. The Rashi says even someone as great as God can take counsel of lesser people or lesser beings, let's say better. Does God need to? No. Does he need spiritual messengers, i.e. angels and this and that? No. He doesn't need any of them. So why does he do it? Why does he do it? To show humility. That's what Rashi says there. Very good. But there's a problem. Rashi continues and says, but since it says it in the plural, aren't people going to make a mistake? People are going to make a mistake. What's the mistake? They're going to say, let us see what's going on. We? Who's we? Right? Maybe it's Chinese, Mr. We. I don't know. Who's we? The we over here is God is talking to the heavenly court. So Rashi says, I got a problem. And what's the problem? The problem is people are going to make a mistake. People are going to say, you know what? People are going to say there's more than one God. They're going to make that mistake. So what's the answer? Why does God allow it to be written that way? Why did he want it that way? Same thing. You go to the beginning of Genesis. God says, let us make man in our image. Same question. Who's we? Who's he talking about? Who's he talking about? Same question. So now you tell me people can make a mistake. People become heretics. And people are going to say, see, Torah permits polytheism. More than one God. Believe in more than one God. Now, could people make that mistake? Yes. Does God want you to make that mistake? No. Does he give you free choice? Yeah. He gives you free choice. He gives you that ability to make the wrong choice. Why would he do it? Why in the world would he do it? So the Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, in the way of God, the Ramchal says, why did God create evil? See, this is a problem for Christians. Because in Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, it says God created evil. If you look at King James's version, it doesn't say that. They mistranslate it like many things they mistranslate. Because they got a problem. Where does evil come from? According to Christians. Mr. S, the Satan, the evil inclination, whatever you want to call him, the angel of death. He's a fallen angel. No such thing in Judaism. Angels don't have free will. They can't go outside what God tells them to do. They're messengers. Each one doing a different task, whatever it is. Some on a higher level, some lower level, doesn't matter. God uses them, uses these spiritual forces. Read the book Derech Hashem. He speaks about it. He speaks about how it works, technically. without going to all the Kabbalistic things. Even if we're Kabbalists, okay, we get a lot more out of it. Fine. So you understand there are spiritual forces. That's what we take out of it. That's it. God has his messengers up there. They take care of things down here in different ways. However it works. Yeah. They cannot act independent. This goes against the Rambam's first and 13 principles of faith. Because the Rambam says, Maimonides says over there, God is absolute. What does it mean God's absolute? It means it doesn't change. It means that morality is not relative. It doesn't change. So therefore, if he's absolute, what does that mean? He has no needs. There's nothing outside of him. That means he's in control of the earth above. Sorry, the heavens above and the earth below. That's why when we take a lulav, right? Still a number of weeks after Sukkot, right? So a person takes the lulav, and during different parts of the service, you shake it. How do you shake it? You shake it this way. You shake it in front of you. You shake it to the right. You shake it behind you. You shake it to the sides. You shake it up. You shake it down. Right? Got a video there also how to shake a lulav. Now, what's the purpose? What's the purpose? I mean, there's a lot of Kabbalistic things going on here, but what's the simple explanation? Why are we shaking it in 6 directions? Right? Remember, I'm shaking it up first. I'm shaking it to the side. I'm shaking it back. That's 3, 4, 5. Shaking it up. And I'm shaking it down. So when I shake it around 4 directions, north, east, west, and south. Yeah, this world. When I shake it up and I shake it down, that means God has dominion of the world above and God has dominion of the world below. Meaning, he's the one in charge. Any of these other forces, wind, fire, water, all these other different elements in the world have no independent power. Now, technically speaking, if they would have independent power, right? If they would have independent power, what would I say? I would say very simple. That means God's not God. That means he's not in control. This sounds like the Odyssey. Anyone ever read the Odyssey way back? Right? All the gods fighting, Zeus and Neptune and this one and that one, and jealousy and who knows what. Judaism, it doesn't exist. Probably other religions also doesn't exist different ways. Right? Why doesn't it exist by us? Very simple. These forces do exist. Whatever they do, whatever God's purpose is for them, okay. They do exist. They do not have independent power. Meaning, if the ocean and the wind decide, okay, the Atlantic Ocean and the wind decides, you know what? We want to make a tsunami. We want to get, we want to get rid of half of Southeast Asia. We want to put Atlas back on the map. No pun intended. Yeah. So God says, okay, go ahead. Not a problem. Go ahead. The wind spins around, makes this giant earthquake, tsunami, half of Southeast Asia destroyed. Now, what if God said, you want to do that? That's a great idea. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. Yeah, so you can't do it. Now, they huff and they puff and they have power to go against what God says? No. They have no independent power. If God wills it, they can do it. If he doesn't will it, they won't. So what did a lot of people make the mistake? Even Pharaoh himself, we'll see next few weeks, comes to prominence. Book of Exodus, even Pharaoh himself understood there is a God who created the world. Yeah, that's true. But he said that God's, what is he gonna have to do with this world? God's too busy keeping the earth on its axis, making sure it doesn't get too close to the sun, otherwise we'd be incinerated. Or too far back, or we'd be like a frozen tundra like Pluto. Right? No offense, Pluto got demoted as a planet. Yeah. They got totally demoted here. At the end of the day, God's busy doing other things. He's keeping black holes clear. I don't know. He's keeping meteorites not going to the Earth's atmosphere. He's doing all kinds of things. He's so busy with that. Why would he worry about us? So he put everything in motion. You could say God's still behind nature. Nature goes according to the way God wants it to go. Yeah, but there's a problem. There's a fundamental philosophical problem. And that is, what if you see a world of design, that's how Abraham came to recognition of God at the age of 3 or the age of 40. Difference of opinion. But he saw that there was a world that's methodical. Meaning, you take an apple pit, right? You put it in the ground. You put it in the ground, all things being equal, water, sunlight, it's going to grow a tree of apples. Orange, same thing. But imagine you get some of these pits, let's say a peach pit, something like that, a plum pit, say that 5 times fast. Yeah, these things are hard as a rock. You give them to an animal, they won't eat it. Human won't eat it. You break every single tooth you own, right? That you have in your mouth. Now, what happens miraculously? People call it nature, but it's a miracle. I don't think there's any question. You take this peach pit, right? Thing is hard as a rock. Yeah, can't do anything with it. Can't eat it, nothing. You stick it in the ground, and the ground absorbs it. The ground makes this pit disintegrate. Through water, through sunlight, there's going to be a tree that's going to grow with hundreds of peaches. Now you're going to say, of course. Everyone's going to say, isn't that nature? Of course it's nature. Where nature comes from, right? Well, how did it happen? You want to tell me there was a Big Bang, right? Not saying it's necessarily a contradiction to creation. Even if there was the Big Bang, okay, now what? Now what? Everything was put in the universe at the exact same time and it's there forever? That's pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive. Right? We can say God is behind the Big Bang without getting into, into heretical issues here. That's not a contradiction per se. But where did nature come from? It's a pretty big miracle. Day in and day out, year after year. Right? You take procreation, also a pretty big miracle. No question, especially if everything goes right. A child is formed, and everything's normal. You want to say that's how it works? Okay, it's biology. And that child doesn't need any nourishment from anything except from the mother. And it gets protected from the mother. It's in this embryonic sac. Anyone's ever seen an embryonic sac? You might say it's pretty gross, but, think about what it does. Think about what it does. You're going to say, what are you talking about? This is biology. Yeah, I was never good in the sciences in general. Yeah, this is biology 101. You're right. That's pretty incredible, though. Right? It's one thing the Mission Pirkei Avos says. You got to remember where you came from. Where do you come from? Everyone comes from the same place, a putrid drop. The Mission Pirkei Avos says, I'll get there one day when I'm like 97. The rate I'm going. Yeah. We're going to say that, you take any secular person, of course that's the way it is. That's nature. Very good. So now, where'd nature come from? Where'd nature come from? That'll come from somewhere. You want to say it's like an ink dropper, all of a sudden like something happened and just like, you had all these amino acids in the world and then all of a sudden, bam, there's this big, there's this, this big bang and everything came out the way it did, the way it should. That's pretty incredible if that would be the case. And there's no rhyme or reason. It's all haphazard. Yeah. But we're not here to prove, that God's in charge and he runs the world and look what he does. I'm just pointing out a few things that this is illogical. It's illogical. It should happen all the time, every single time, with all the right conditions. When things go wrong, that's when people complain. That's why doctors can be the biggest heretics in the world. The Gemara in Kedushin says, even the best of doctors go to hell. Why the best of doctors? Because the worst of doctors are heretics themselves. Why? Because they see miracles day in and day out, and they attribute it to their own efforts. They attribute it to nature. Yeah. So even the best, the Gemara says, even the best are going to sit there and fry because they don't recognize where it comes from. So give an example. Right? Give an example. Give an example. Doctor does an operation. The Torah says, book of Exodus, Torah ends with the verse that says, Rape Yirape. Means that a person has the ability to heal. Now, what do they have the ability to heal? Right? Let's ask the question. What does the doctor have the ability to heal? The doctor has the ability to heal a flesh wound. That's what he's got the ability to heal. What about on the insides? What about if he does an operation? Right? What if he does an operation? Now, what does the doctor say usually after the operation? Depends how where the patient's holding. They'll say this should happen, that should happen based on statistics, based on other things. But basically, they all say the same thing, or they should. They said, we've done everything we can. What does that mean, we've done everything we can? It means once they stitch the person up, are they in control what happens? No. Could there be an infection? They say, yeah, maybe there'll be an infection. Maybe this could happen, maybe that could happen. Do they know 100%? No. We have an expression here in Israel, but they say it other places also, that they say that the operation was successful, but the patient died. You can have that. I had a friend of mine, learned with, many years, I'd have, lung surgery. The operation was successful, and the operation was successful. But, there was, a small, what's it called? He didn't get a lung that was, that was sick. Didn't get a sickly lung, that they put in, right? But, it got an infection, and he had no immune system, and basically the infection killed him. That's what happened, right? Basically the infection killed him. So doctors can say, yeah, this could happen, that could happen, the other thing could happen. They don't know for sure. Right? Now, I heard about my own father that, he was sick. They didn't know what it was. They finally found out it was lymphoma. And that's, basically terminal. Right? It's basically terminal. So, okay, they're going to start doing whatever they're going to do. Nothing was imminent. Nothing was imminent. Now, the story I got was the doctor said at least 6 to 12 months. That's what the doctor said. They'll start treatment. They'll see what happens. How his body reacts. What happens? Made the doctors look kind of silly if they had made this prediction. What happened? That night, all his internal organs started to fail and he died. That night. Middle of the night. What happened to their prediction? They're not going to sue him for that. Right? But what happened to that prediction? That prediction went out the window. They weren't trying to hide anything. They said, okay, this is the way it looks. We'll start treatment, whatever. But it's terminal. Okay. So they said it's terminal. Very good. You're never going to recover from it. Okay. Can handle that. But at the same time, to say 6 to 12 months and the person dies that night, that's a very serious mistake. But they're calling it the way their eyes see it. Right? But at the end of the day, are they in control? They're saying what should be. Did they take into account, they tell anyone in my family, you better be there. Once they figured out what the diagnosis was, you better be there, overnight. This is the end. No. One of my brothers got a call in the middle of the night. They better come down quick. Yeah. Was that expected? Wasn't expected. Was not expected at all. The doctors do not have that ability. They can give their spin on it. They can say what they think, statistics, this and that. But when they sew up the person, they're not in control at all. They're a messenger, okay? They can be a very good messenger. They can help save people's lives, but they're not the ones doing it. They're the messenger. They're the ones God's giving them the ability to help. But is that a guarantee? Does that mean they're healing the person? No. See, this is where Gaiva comes in. This is where being conceited comes in. They say, I did the surgery. I did this. I saved the person's life. No, you didn't. You did the surgery. You did the surgery. You made the incision. You did this. You did that. You're right. That you get credit for. That 100% you get credit for. But when you sewed up the person, and this is really the point that a lot of people miss, and that is when you sew up that person, do you have any guarantee what that person is going to do? How that body is going to be affected? No. You have no idea. You can say, you can, you can project. You can say, according to this, it could be like this, like that. When they sew up that person, they're not healing them. They're taking something out of their body or moving things around or whatever they're doing to save the person. Very true. That for sure. But the healing process inside, they don't have any guarantee of nothing. Nothing. Could there be an infection? Yes. Could that affect other things? Yes. Could it not? I mean, a lot of things could happen. Bottom line is they don't have control of that. Right? So the Torah says they have an opportunity to heal. Rape, they have an opportunity to heal, but that's only a flesh wound. Flesh wound! They don't have the opportunity to heal inside. Inside is saved for God himself. And if God wants to heal them, he'll heal them. And if he doesn't, or whatever, he's the one in control of that. How the body reacts is not in control of man. Not at all. And they can make predictions. Okay. So they got years of knowledge, years of experience. Very good. It should go like this, go like that. And a lot of times what they say is, we've done everything we can do. What does that mean? It means you better pray because we can't do anything more. That's it. You have to admit you can't do anything more. How the body reacts is not exact science. No pun intended. It's not an exact science. Yeah. The body can react in many different ways. Now, could there be an outside chance something could happen that they didn't expect? Sure. Could a person wake up where they never thought they would wake up and they come back to their bodies and, they don't turn out to be vegetables? Sure. They're going to have an explanation for it. A lot of times, people are in comas. They'll tell the family, even if they come out of it, different things that happened or potentially happened. Even if they come out, probably not going to be normal, probably be a vegetable, probably this, probably that. Maybe they're right some of the time. But there are a lot of times there's nothing to explain here. They got nothing to explain. That's why the Gemara says the best of doctors go to hell. The best. Because when you see it in front of your face and you're still in action, you're still stubborn. Just like Pharaoh was before God hardened his heart. Right? Stubborn as a mule. And refuses to change and refuses to see that there's a God that runs the world. That's serious punishment. Because they see that on a daily basis. Plenty of things science cannot explain. But they have to admit at some level. Even when they say, well, I did everything I could do. Now, either the patient will survive or they won't. Then you can tell me, their heart is weak. There's, remember a story of somebody, brittle diabetic, very young. I mean, in today's terms, 70 years old, brittle diabetic. You're going to have to, cut off a leg because of gangrene and all that. But there's a problem. Their heart wouldn't be able to withstand the surgery. They die on the table. So what do you do? What do you do in such a situation? In that situation, the person died before it happened. You have to go through it. But see, it's catch-22. You try and stop one thing, but then you get a problem with the heart. I know somebody had like 10 lives. Their heart just kept going and going and going, strong, strong, strong. Yeah, they should have been dead years ago. I mean, eventually passed away, but, they should have been dead years ago for different things. Obviously, God didn't want to take them for whatever, whatever reason. So we have no idea. We have no idea what we're seeing here. But doctors in general, I mean, how do you not recognize these things are miracles? A child's born, all things being equal, right? 5 fingers, 5 toes. on each hand, right? Each leg. Baby comes out normal. That's huge. You can say, yeah, that's the norm. And when it's not the norm, you got a sickly child and, and deformities and other things. That's when a person starts to question why. Because this is the way it should be, not that way. The norm is people, baby shouldn't come out deformed, shouldn't come out, diseased and all that. Shouldn't. Why? Okay, it's a whole other story. It's a whole different thing. Yeah, but when things go normal, no one questions. Because that's normal. Quote unquote, that's nature. When things go off the script, and then there's disease, and then there's other things, or mental challenges, or whatever the case may be, you're going to say, why me? I know somebody very interesting. I know somebody, their first child was Down syndrome. All their other childs are healthy and normal. This kid now I see is, I don't know, it's got to be a teenager, 16, 17, probably, maybe a little bit older. First child. You can tell me, a person had 7, 8, 9 kids, or whatever it may be, and a woman gives birth in her 40s. Are the chances that child could be Down syndrome much greater? Yes. I'm not saying that's necessarily a reason for contraception at that point, but anyway, we're not going to go there either. But the point is, do the chances go up a lot? Yes. First child? All things being equal? No one expects that. I think the chances of that are extremely slim. I'm not talking about disease. Have a child that has leukemia or born with some other disease or whatever it is. For the first child to be Down syndrome, that's got to be very, very small. Very, very small. So people have different challenges. But again, that's not really the point here either. It's just that we don't know what to expect. We want to expect the best. Doctors scare the wits out of people. One of the things, I just had this one of my kids, one of my daughters, that the baby wasn't growing. So what happens when they say the baby doesn't grow? They scare them. You scare them with them and say, well, baby could be Down syndrome. Baby could be this. Yeah. So, my daughter gave birth early, about a month early. They induced the baby was healthy. Okay, the baby was small. Baby's now probably like a normal born baby now. Baby's been growing. Thank God. But yeah, when the baby doesn't grow, it's a danger. It's an absolute, it can be dangerous. Okay. Then there are other issues, but whatever, that was the main thing. And first time mother, that's not like good news you want to hear. Well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the other thing. Oh, she had to get monitored every week or every couple of days. And finally they just said, okay, go to the emergency room. So she ended up giving birth 2 days later. They induced her because they saw the baby, baby wasn't growing, wasn't healthy. So fine, but the baby came out all right. So, they can say, okay, this could happen, that could happen, and whatever. But it's a scary thing. First child. First child. So again, those statistics they're not very high. They're not very high. I could be wrong. I don't think so. I know one person. I mean, I know a lot of people, but I know one person that their first child was Down syndrome. Now, it could be there are others also. I'm not saying not. I don't think the number's that high. First child, and I'm talking where the mother's young. I'm not talking where the mother's in her 30s. Where the mother's older. I'm talking about where they're young. In their early 20s. 19, 20, 21, whatever. You expect the first child to be Down syndrome. So the whole thing. So when things go normal, right, and this is really the point, get back to my point here. When things go normal, nobody questions. That's nature. Of course, that's the way it should be. That's what should happen. But what happens when it doesn't? What happens when it doesn't go that way? When there are defects or other things. Then people start to question, why does this happen? Bad things happen to good people. Why do people suffer? They'll ask that question. Because it goes against the norm. And when you look at the norm, I just heard someone speaking about this recently, that women dying in childbirth today is very, very small. It can happen. In the civilized world, I'm not saying they got rid of it 100%, but it's really slim. A woman's actually going to die in childbirth. Like it was, years and years ago. So yeah, they perfected that. To whatever extent. It doesn't mean it's not dangerous. It's not a dangerous situation. But still, the chance of something happening, it can happen. There are things that happen. But, it's rare. So when something like that happens, like a woman gave birth, a healthy woman, hemorrhages or something happens and she dies, that's out of the norm. It's way out of the norm. In the Western world, way out of the norm. Happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. But it's slim. It's relatively slim. Most women get pregnant, give birth. That's the way of the world. Right? It's exactly what the Gemara says. Can it happen? There are miscarriages, other things? Yeah. But usually they give birth. Usually it happens. Majority of the time. So no one's going to question that. When are people going to start to question it? They're going to question it when something goes wrong. That's when they start to question it. So doctors think they're the ones in control. They can decide when someone should die, when someone should live. Who gives them the right? We'll put them in charge, take life or not take life. Try and convince people to give up their lives. We got so many beds here, you're taking up space. Why don't you just die anyway? I mean, people can have really terrible bedside manner. I read a story of somebody, the mother was in a hospital and they're trying to convince the mother to die. Basically to die. Go to hospice and die. And so we went to another, primary doctor, like, get your mother out of that hospital. They'll kill her. They'll absolutely kill her. And that's what they would have done. She got her out of the hospital. She lived another 10 years. Healthy years. Got over whatever she got over. She lived another 10 healthy years. They would have killed her. Nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. So we always say, King David says, don't throw me out of my old age. The Greeks had it easy. Right? What did they do? The parents got older. They would take them up to a mountain, go for this nice walk, this nice climb, whatever. Say, Mom, Dad, it's been real. Thanks for everything. You're on your own. Nursing homes, no nursing homes. That's it. Isn't that much easier? Leave them out the pasture. Yeah, so you say you put someone in a nursing home, it's like killing them. Yeah. Also true. Trying best, take care of parents as best as we can. If we can't, we can't. Some things you can't do. You say about they'll atrophy and they'll die quicker in a nursing home. It depends. Not an easy situation. Okay. You have to know how to live. You have to know how to die. Right? Not easy to live. We're born against our will. We die against our will. The Mishnah Pirkei Avos says. So the Kaufman would say in parentheses, but you still have to live. You still have to live. And life is hard. But who gives people the right to say, you're going to die, you're going to live? This is the whole question during Corona, right? During COVID. Yeah. They know what to do at the beginning, right? Doctors totally lost here. Even if the numbers are skewed, doesn't matter. Doctors still totally lost what happened. Yeah, it made them look really silly. But, they had these hospitals only had a handful of ventilators. And they needed ventilators, put people on ventilators. Who do they decide gets it? It's like big halachic decisions. If you give to one and then, you don't give it to them in time, they're going to die. So what do? You give it to someone younger. They're more vital. They can fight it off better. I mean, what's the criteria? You only have a handful of these things. These are real questions. And it can't be based on what the doctors think. I don't care what the doctors think. It's about preservation of life. See, Judaism is about preservation of life to the nth degree, as much as possible. Even to the extent where if someone, the Mishnah says someone could have died and there was a wood chopper and the noise is keeping that person from dying, you stop him from chopping. Right? You allow them to die. but you can't kill them directly. That's murder. Right? The doctor once told me it's in hospice. They give patients basically enough to live, enough nutrients to live. Right? But the problem is someone's got cancer. What's the secondary cause of death of cancer? Is pneumonia. Now, when a person gets pneumonia, you have no immune system because your immune system shot from chemotherapy or radiation or whatever. Yeah, so your immune system is shot. So if your immune system is shot, then when a person, God forbid, at that stage gets pneumonia will kill them, potentially kill them. Why? Because they don't have enough in their body to fight it. They're too weak. Right? So I asked the doctor this question, how much nutrients are you giving them, in order to fight this off? They said they're given enough to live. They can't starve them. That's forbidden. That's outright murder. Right? You're starving them. Right? So that you can't do. That's against the law. That you can't do. Maybe some places do it. I don't know. But that you can't do. That's murder. That's outright murder. Now, what happens if you give them enough barely to survive? They're not going to die, but you're giving them barely enough to survive. They're very, very weak. All you need is an infection to come in and boom, that's it, wipes them out. So my question on that is, why isn't that murder? You're not giving them enough to live. Okay, you're not starving them. Very good. Some people died of corona because they were starved to death. No one knew how to deal with them. But you're not allowed to starve them to death. Good. You give them barely the amount to live. Why isn't that murder? Because murder has to be, according to Jewish law, has to be direct. You have to be doing something direct to cause it. If it's something indirect, they're not starving to death, but they don't have enough strength to fight it off because you're not giving them enough nutrients. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay, but that's not murder because that's indirect. So something that's indirect is a different thing. That's not murder. Sounds like murder, though. Definitely sounds like, because everyone knows you go to hospice to die, okay? It's only a question how long, very good. But you got to give them at least the ability to, you got to give them the ability to survive. So they'll say we are doing that. We are giving them a fighting chance. Yeah, barely. Because what's the reality? The reality is this person's taking up space. They're going to die anyway. Get someone else who's going to get a better chance to live. That's what these doctors tell them or other people tell them. It's crazy. Really you should think about, the end. It's what this woman said about her mother. They were trying to convince her to die. And there was no reason to. Okay, she was sick. Doesn't mean she was going to die. And this doctor said, get her out of this hospital. They'll kill her. They 100% will kill her. Imagine. That person they would have killed in 2 weeks, a month, whatever it was. This woman lived on her own. On her own for another 10 years. Family get-togethers, seeing grandkids, great-grandkids, this, that. Otherwise, they would have killed her. 10 years of added life. You know what that is? Can't imagine what that is. And these idiots are telling her to die. Don't you think it's about time? You're never going to have quality of life. I love to be a doctor in these circumstances. Have a lot of fun. My Jekyll and Hyde. Don't you want to die? You're not living for anything anyway. You don't even have your own teeth. Nothing tastes good to you. You're shriveling away. Do it with a smile, of course. Imagine. Imagine trying to be convinced to die. This is what the woman said about her story. I'm just embellishing it because that's what I'm good at. Yeah, it's crazy. 10 years saved their life. 10 years. So doctor's not the end all. You have to go to doctors. You have to put our best forward, okay? You have to hope you get the right messenger, the right person that can help you and diagnose and get you through it and all that. But who's the one that ultimately heals? See, this is the mistake. They think they're the ones doing everything. They're the ones healing, right? Famous story I always tell. I'll take questions. I know there are a lot of questions here. That, a guy comes, religious guy comes with his daughter to this expert, this surgeon, So he takes a look at all the information. Says, yeah, I can do the surgery. I can save your daughter's life. And this father of this child is religious. Oh, thank God, Bezrat Hashem, with the help of God. He says, what do you mean the help of God? I'm the one doing this, not God. I'm the one in charge here, not him. He says, take that back. I'm not taking that back. He says, I'm not having my daughter, be operated by you. He said, you take that back. And he says, if you don't have your daughter operated by me, she's going to die. The guy walked out and said, you don't run the world, God does. And this doctor laughed. The doctor laughed in this guy's face. A few weeks later, this doctor goes to a convention. Goes to a doctor's convention. He has to give a presentation. He gives the presentation in the middle of 300 people. You know what they say? When you got to go, you got to go. So embarrassed. He had to run out in the middle of his own presentation in front of 300 people to relieve himself. Calls back this person. He says, yeah, I want to meet with you. Bezrat Hashem. He's like, Bezrat Hashem, what happened? You get dropped on your head? And he said, I want to tell you, I thought I was in control. I thought, yeah, I'm going to do the surgery. I'm the one in control. He said, you know what? I can't even control a bowel movement. I'm not even in control of that. I can sit there and sip this tea for the next hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is. Am I going to pinpoint exactly when I'm going to have to go? No idea. I'm going to have to run right now. Thank God I don't. Yeah, you're not in control. So it took this doctor, be slapped upside the head in a severe way, embarrassed in public, because he opened his mouth. He opened up his big trap. And he said, I'm in control. Oh, you're in control? God's going to say, yeah. You can't even control your own bodily functions. You're not in control of nothing. Yeah, and he got the message. Now, I'm not saying everyone would get the message. He got the message. Pretty miraculous. It's an amazing story. At least when someone gets the message and he sees we're not in control, we're not in control of anything. We have free will. Free will is limited. I'm not going to go there either, right? But so many things we see, it's a question of how we react. It's not a question of control. A person walks outside their door. Are they in control of anything? No. They're not in control of anything. Someone told me many years ago when I first started driving, right? They said, it's not a question if you're a good driver or not. You got to watch out for the other person. It's true. You got people drive like maniacs. You got a lot of, people that don't drive safe. So you have to be, you have to be on guard. You for sure have to be on guard because people are maniacs. You got to drive defensively because you don't know what the other person's going to do. You don't know what you're in control of. You don't know what the other person's going to do. So you got to be extra careful. That's the advice I got when I was like 16. 17. That's great advice when I listened. Yeah, but it's true. Can you control the other person driving on the side of the street? No. Can you control the person driving in front of you? No. You're not in control. You can only control what you can control. If that. And even those things you're not necessarily in control. Yeah, let me, I digressed here a lot. Let me see. I'm sure there are no questions, but let's deal with it. Let me see. Somebody asked, okay, aren't circumcisions even a no-hide stature? No. No. You say it was given to Abraham. Abraham wasn't Jewish yet. True. There is a question by the Bnei Keturah. Who are the Bnei Keturah? The sons of Abraham and Hagar. For that, the Rambam has a whole discussion. Whether the sons of Keturah or even the Muslims, right, have an obligation of circumcision. Maybe the Muslims do. But the Muslims are not Noahites. Yeah, they're close to Noahites because they believe in one God. But, I've heard people say de facto they're Noahites. I don't believe it's true. And the reason I don't believe it's true is because there are certain things that all I have to do is find one thing, according to the Torah, that Noahites are commanded in, that the Muslims don't do, and that throws them up. That knocks them up. Yeah. All I have to do is find one. Right? And it shouldn't be that hard to do. So they're similar to Noahites. They believe in one God. We believe they believe in one God. There is an opinion that's idolatry. We don't hold that way. Practically speaking, we don't hold that way. We definitely don't hold that way. But they're close to Noahites. Okay. Doesn't mean they're de facto Noahites. right? I've heard people say it. I've heard people argue it. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Isn't bris milah of the things that separate Jews from non-Jews? Yes. Yes, that is an issue, right? There are three things that make Jews Jews, that distinguish us from non-Jews, right? What are the three signs? One of them is circumcision. One of them is tefillin, phylacteries, whatever you want to call them. And the third, right? What's the third? Shabbos. That's a funny thing. Like these super Noahites, unless they're in the process of conversion, will say, we have the right to keep Shabbos, right? Not going to keep Shabbos like a Jew. They probably agree with that. But I would say at the same time, regardless, they may take it too far. Non-Jews in the process of conversion obviously have to do something to break it. I'm not saying a non-Jew can't necessarily participate, right? But when a non-Jew starts saying, I'm not going to do certain categories of forbidden work that Jews do, that's a problem. That is a serious problem because that goes against the idea the Rambam says that's called chidushei das. That is called making up a new religion. Now, some people think Noahide is a new religion. It's not, right? The Noahide law is brought down in the Talmud, right? Codified by the Rambam. He's like the main authority over here. Very few people speak about the Noahide laws. Regardless, as someone here points out, very, very true. When it comes to circumcision, it is one sign that distinguishes the Jews from the non-Jews. Now, non-Jews may do it because there's always difference of opinion among the doctors, every 5 years or so, whether it stops cancer or doesn't stop cancer, but there's always a disagreement between them. So some people think it's healthier that way, right? Less problems. Okay, but doesn't mean they're commanded. Someone asked Mitzitza B'peh. Okay, yeah. So, taking out the blood to curdle make sure that the kid doesn't bleed, right? And doing it that way, so to speak. Okay, that there are major differences, right? Even the way that, Abraham's kids and the way we do it today is done, right? One difference is that part of the body is exposed, that the skin is totally cut off, right? There are two things that are done, and by non-Jews only one, even by the Muslims, I think they only do one, right? They don't fold the skin all the way over, so the top part is exposed, so to speak, or totally exposed, right? We'll keep this clean, right? So there is a difference. There is definitely a difference, with that. But it's not, by what the Muslims do. First of all, they don't do it by the 8th day. Muslims do it even older. When the kid is, a kid could be 5, could be 8, whatever. So someone's telling me that by them, no matter how old the kid is, if like he squirms or he squelches or says, or like screams out in pain, that's bad, right? That's bad for them. So, okay, baby does it on 8 days. That's the command. All things being equal, right? There's no problem. Then they do it on the 8th day, even on Shabbos or even on a festival. Torah teaches that we should kill idol worshippers. Yeah. Right? It's death penalty. It is death penalty. Can we do it today? No. Can't do it today. The Rambam, by the way, the laws of idolatry, the Rambam brings down that every place of idolatry in the world, wherever you live, you should burn it down. You should totally destroy it. So why don't we do it? Why don't we do it? What's the obvious reason? Because if you do it, you go to jail. So technically speaking, isn't it true? Isn't it true that if you, let's say you wouldn't get caught. Let's say 100% you wouldn't get caught. Could you do it? You could do it. If you knew you wouldn't get caught. If you get caught, desecration of God's name, other things, you got a lot of problems. They have a lot of issues. But yeah, idolatry has to be uprooted in the world. For the Noahide laws, will make it even better. A non-Jew commits idolatry. What's the punishment? So certain things that a non-Jew does that are liable for death penalty, idolatry is one of them. I don't have to warn them. Like a Jew, I can take out a shotgun and kill them on the spot. No warning, no nothing. They bow down to that wafer or whatever. They bow down to show a little fat guy, Mr. Fatso himself. They bow down. That's it. I could shoot him straight away. As long as I wouldn't get caught. So technically, if you wouldn't get caught, it'd be okay. But, we're not going to take that chance. We're not going to take that chance. It would be true. Right? Same thing. Burning down places of idolatry. Big mitzvah to do so. That's the Rambam. But he can't, practically speaking, he can't do it. That's the problem. Can't do it. Right? Otherwise, otherwise you'd be in jail. So again, I'm just saying, technically, if a person wouldn't get caught or whatever, well, 100% you wouldn't get caught, you could do it. That's how bad idolatry is. It has to be wiped out. Totally wiped out. Someone here says by circumcision, heard that by nativ. Yeah, be very careful. I'm just going to make one statement. Be very careful what you hear from them. They also think, people there in Humble, Texas, some of them think, or a lot of them think, they can keep Shabbos also. Right? It's our video where someone says, some rabbis think we can't keep Shabbos. Wink, 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 wink. Yeah, because you're liable for death penalty if you do it. There are some aspects of Shabbos you can keep. Right? There are some aspects. When you start saying that I can keep, if you're not a Jew in training, right? If you have no intention to convert, why are you taking on certain things you're not going to do? Certain categories you're not allowed to do. That's making up a new religion. Right? Again, I heard this person say, I know some rabbi is going to be upset that say, we can't keep Shabbos. Wink, wink, wink. They can. At whatever level. That's a problem. That is a serious problem. Now, to say that a Noahide that's through circumcision, yeah, that's also a problem. I don't think there's any question about it. It's a problem. Yeah, if you thought it was strange, it is. 100% it's strange. Someone here mentioned not a death penalty, circumcision will be done worldwide on the 8th day of the Jewish stat. No matter why they do, who says it's permissible? I didn't say if someone circumcised themselves will have it for death penalty. That I didn't say. I said non-Jews shouldn't do it. Doesn't apply to them. Someone here pointed out, very true. It's one of the things that makes a Jew, distinguishes us from the non-Jews. They don't have to do it on the 8th day. They want to do it for health reasons. So let them do it for health reasons. They want to do it because they want to do it and be like a Jew. They're not Jewish. They are not Jewish. You want to be a Jew, be a Jew. You don't want to be a Jew, fine. If you're going to do it, you can say, I'll do it for health reasons. Don't say you're doing it for any other reason. If you say you're doing it for any other reason, you're overstepping the boundaries of trying to be a Jew as a non-Jew. That is a problem. That I've spoken about a lot. That's a serious problem. Right? If you're in the process of conversion and that's what you're going to do, good. Then there's leeway. What you can do and what you can't do. If you're not going to convert at all, you're going to be a super Noahide, whatever you want to call these people. That doesn't fit. That for sure doesn't fit. So you're going to say that's strange. Yeah, it is strange. And then keeping Shabbos is even stranger. Because the 2 out of the 3 signs that make the Jews, they're going to say we can do also. That's a problem. That is a serious problem. So how can they do it? Good question. Good question. They have their rabbinic authorities that say such a thing? I'm not even going to go there. Their quote-unquote one rabbinic authority that they had is now doing diet stuff. Because we hammered this person 10 years ago. Or 6, 7 years ago. Came out with a letter against them, flattened this person like a pancake, said he should never teach. Serious misconception. And I told this person, you want to come out and say such novella, such Torah novella, have someone big behind it. So I gave him an opportunity on Facebook, gave him a golden opportunity. I said, show me who your sources are. Show me who your rabbinic sources are. So I don't have to do that. I don't have to prove anything. Call me out, call Rabbi. Go back out, Rabbi. Sing her out. Everyone knows who my authority is. Everybody knows. Go to orthodoxconversion.com. You'll see who he is. He is the Torah giant of the generation. I got nothing to hide. So why wouldn't he say it? Why wouldn't he say it was authority? It's because he doesn't have one. Gave an opportunity. Threw me under the bus and everyone else under the bus. Right. So even if circumcision is done as a non-Jew, Torah points out very true. when they convert, okay, there's nothing left to take off, no foreskin to take off, they have to draw blood. Okay, well, I tell people don't do it until conversion, till right before conversion, because then you get it all, one shot. No pun intended. You take care of it in one thing, right? You have to go through it more than once. I mean, not going to go through it more than once. You have to draw blood, but you should do it right before conversion. Also, world doesn't circumcise the tongue. Right, totally different, right? They don't do exactly what we do. That is true. That is true. Someone asked before. I want to deal with this question. Also a big question here. Someone asks, what happened to what happened to this guy? I assume the person you're referring to is this guy that was blaspheming against Jewish people, right? This guy in parliament person in Turkey, right? I think that's what the reference is. If I'm wrong, you just tell me. But this person, right, in the middle of this diatribe against the Jewish people, dropped dead of a heart attack. Yeah, dropped dead on the spot, right? So the question is, what happened to divine intervention? So I can say very simple, and again, it's my opinion. You can take what it's worth. I would say very simple like this. People would say, well, isn't that a direct result? You blaspheme against God, the person drops dead. That's a big coincidence, no? When AIDS was very big back in the day, where did the AIDS came from? Monkeys. And their relations with monkeys and other things, not just with drug addicts and whatever. But someone told me, or gays are doing it, or whatever the case is. Yeah, again, we'll keep this clean. So many interesting topics here. Yeah. So I said, so this person said to me, conservative Jew, obviously, or even Reformed for that matter, who cares? This person said, you think there's a direct result? Now, what did everybody say? And people will still say the same thing. If homosexuals, if they're having sex and they're not protected, is that a good chance? Unprotected sex is going to give you AIDS? Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I don't know what the stats are today, whatever. Can that be a direct result? Yes. It can be a direct result. That a woman could have it, unprotected sex, a guy could get it, whatever. Yeah, could happen. Between two men, do the statistics are they much higher? Yes. Prove it. Much higher. Much, much higher. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen through drug addicts and other things. Much higher. Now, this person wanted to say, he said, you really think that's a direct result? No, I don't believe everything doctors say. But, this is pretty significant. They're saying if you have unprotected sex, two males, that could give you AIDS. Prove it. This is not just like, some wild theory out there. Forget about whether it came from monkeys or not. It doesn't matter. They're going to say, you think that's a divine punishment? I go, you got a better explanation? That was my answer. I said, if you act in this way, the chances exponentially go up that you get AIDS. That's not a coincidence. That's direct result. If I'll give an example. If a woman, God forbid, is pregnant, and a woman smokes crack while she's pregnant, the kid has a very high chance of coming out with deformities. Now, it's not the kid's fault, but there's a reality. There is a reality. That's been proven. This is not conspiracy theories. This is something proven. Same thing. To homosexual men, the odds go up exponentially. They could get AIDS if they're unprotected. So now, someone wants to have the audacity. They want to have the audacity to say that's not a direct result. What do you think it is? They're not drug addicts. They didn't get it anywhere. Where else is it coming from? This is not rocket science. Yeah, I'm not going to put people down to put them down. I think this is pretty obvious. Yeah, statistics show it. I love statistics. Yeah, they show it. Now, someone asked a very good question. Someone asked, what about God intervention? Now, this person who made this diatribe against the Jewish people, libel, right? We're going to call it libel here. Libel. Yeah, blaspheming against the Jewish people. Saying that we commit genocide and all these things. Now, this person, after the speech or in the middle of the speech, whatever it was, drops dead. That's pretty significant. That is pretty significant. Now, would I say and put all the money I don't have down to say, God just took him out mid-sentence because he didn't want this guy blaspheming? Don't know. Looks very interesting. Don't know. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened on October 7th. Because a lot of people claim, look at that festival. Look what went on. There was the Buddha there. There was immorality going on, one of the holiest days of the year, on Shabbos, on a festival, this and that. But you got to remember, that decree was made before Rosh Hashanah. That didn't help. Everyone agrees what they did didn't help. No question. That's the reason it happened? No one can say. Nobody can say. And all the great rabbis of the generation said that. I also said it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But I heard a lot of much greater people than me say, we don't know why. It was a decree, the divine decree. What they were doing didn't help the situation. I'm not going to say it helped it by any stretch. But no one can say with absolute authority, that's the reason it happened. Nobody can say it. And if people are saying it, I can't answer for them. I will not answer for them. I heard my Rebbe say this. I heard other great people say this. We don't know why. We can speculate what was going on and, whatever. But it's not that one event that happened because, and that was the decree. That was ipso facto. This happened and this is the punishment. Because you got to remember, the punishment is already before. Right? Sorry, the decree has already been made before. The decree is not made at that point, at that second, it happened direct. Doesn't it work like that? That's not how divine punishment works. If divine punishment worked like that in general, no one would ever have free will. It'd be like someone sits down to a steak, nice steak, in potatoes, whatever. He sits down to this great meal, the steak is high in cholesterol, high in fat, and all that, and then bam, God turns it into a salad. Or he turns it into bread. That's direct. That's like you do something direct reaction. It looks like a direct reaction. I would agree. Person mid-sentence drops dead after blaspheming the Jewish people. Yeah, that's not good. That 100% is not good. But there was already a decree made before that. Right? That you got to understand. The decree is already made. So if the decree is already made and this person did this did not help his situation. This 100% did not help his situation. Is that the reason? Can we say 100% he died because of that reason? No. Looks like it, but we can't say. Nobody knows. He was already liable for death to die on that day. He's already liable. This didn't help him. Well, that's not the reason. Who says that's the reason? Coincidental, yeah. But no one can say they have the inside track and say that's the reason. Nobody. Nobody's got, nobody has prophecy today. The only people that have prophecy today are either imbeciles or little children. Nobody has prophecy. There's divine inspiration. There are great rabbis that have like low form of prophecy. Okay. But even the greatest of the great, they're not saying that's the reason. It looks bad. I agree. Looks very coincidental, but you can't say that's the reason. It's the same thing. Same thing. If a person, you can say like this. If a person is driving recklessly, because they drive recklessly, they lose control and they smash into a tree and they die. You can also say, well, didn't they die because they were driving recklessly? Yeah. Cause of death? Smashed into a tree going 150K. Yeah. Going 150 miles an hour. Whatever the equivalent is in kilometers. You say that's the reason. You got somebody, Sonny Bono, yeah, what happened to him? He died in a ski accident, right? Going down the slopes, whatever, smashed right into a tree. Cause of death, he smashed into a tree. So you say, cause and effect, yeah. But he already had a decree on his life. He was already going to die that day anyway. God just made it happen this way. But he had a death sentence on him anyway. Anyone's going to die on that particular day, however they die. This death sentence was already, they were going to die anyway. There was already a decree they were going to die. This is just the way it happened, but doesn't mean that's the reason. Right? That's a big difference. So same thing, by what happened on October 7th. There was already a decree these people were going to die. There was already a decree. Because of what they did, again, it didn't help them, but that's not the reason. That's not the reason. It was already decreed. It does, divine intervention in such a way does not work that way. There have to be other things that happen that warrant a person's going to die. And then it's going to happen in whatever way God wants it to. Car crash, whatever, heart attack, who knows? It can happen 1.5 million different ways. It doesn't mean that's the reason, though. So again, someone crashes into a tree, you'll say that's probable cause. You're right. But within Judaism, the angel of death, God already told him to take this person's life, and that's the way he did it. That's the way it happened. But just because it happened that way doesn't mean that's the reason why it happened, right? Keep that in mind. Someone asks, is a non-Jew allowed to learn from Jewish scripture used by a JIT in order to prepare for their full conversion? Then they have to spend multiple years afterwards. Well, if you're in the process of conversion, you're in the process of conversion. Yeah, why do you have to learn from a JIT? If you yourself are a JIT, right? If a person's a Jew in training, so why can't they learn? Why can't they learn? If they're a Noahide, they don't know they're going to convert or not. Okay. So if you don't know you're going to convert, learn what you're supposed to learn. As a Noahide, if you're going to convert, okay. So then you can start learning Jewish things. Right? You don't have to go to a JIT to do that. How does the person know when they're in the conversion process? They decide they want to convert. Now, doesn't mean they will convert. Definitely doesn't mean that. But if they want to go in that path, then why can't they start learning for that purpose? They could. Another question, why be able to help Jews convert in Israel? I can. I'm not necessarily recognized by a rabbinical court, by the chief rabbinate, that doesn't matter. Right? I can help facilitate that for sure. But so the simple answer is yes. Question, somebody asks, did Hashem give command the second goat to give a gift to Azazel? Yes, he did. Right? So go back and watch 6 hours or 8 hours worth of videos to understand what that meant. I spoke about it in Leviticus Chapter 16. Right? Leviticus Chapter 16. Right? Is Azazel another deity? Can't be. We said before, can't be. Why not? Because there's no more than one God. Right? So the Kuyakar, the Sforno, or others say this was not idolatry. This goat was given to whoever's in charge of the desert. The angel guards over the desert, do whatever it wants with this goat. Throw it over a cliff, destroy it, mutilate it, whatever. But it's not idolatry. It's not idolatry. Right? So Azazel has to be something other than a deity, right? Or a demon, yeah. You have to remember, there are spiritual forces all over. We don't see them. We don't see them. So again, if it's given over, we said you can't sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice. But, where do demons hang out? We're going to see if I get there. Where do demons hang out? In deserts. Places where there are no people. Because there'll be people there that cause damage. That's exactly what the Gemara says. They hang out in certain places. Right? So, right, it cannot be, right, it cannot be a demon or a deity, right, as we explained. Someone asked, I got to worship such as Christianity is a thing of the past. I don't defend Islam. I've heard you know, I've heard Rabbi Singer say that, Islam's a false religion. Let's keep in mind. Anyone who goes against the prophecy of Moses himself is a false religion. Right? The Torah says, Book of Deuteronomy, you cannot add or subtract to the Torah. So they hold he's a prophet, but they disagree with him. They go beyond. Right? So the Rambam makes clear anyone who does that, it's idolatry. I want to tell me they keep the Noahide laws. They believe in one God. Let's say that, Islam is not multi-deity. Islam believes in the same God as we do. That's the mainstream opinion. Because I know someone's going to say, there is an opinion like that Islam is idolatry. You're right. There's an opinion like that. We don't hold it like it. So it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. For all practical purposes, they believe in one God. The problem is, the Muslims hate the Christians, no question about it, because they hate idolatry. Right? So that's good. But at the same time, for us to defend the Muslims, we can say they believe in one God. Okay. I don't have an issue with that. Defending their religion, I have an issue with. Because they're inaccuracy. We believe beyond the shadow of a doubt it's a made-up religion. When you go against Moses himself, it's a made-up religion. Whether it's idolatry or not, it's a different issue. If it's idolatry, it's idolatry. Yeah, if it's not, doesn't matter. It's still forbidden to make up a new religion. That's the point. Right. That is the point. So someone points out that Islam can rise, the Jews decrease in their observance. No. I'll tell you why. Because you have to remember one thing, which is probably something most people don't know. And that is that when it comes to Islam itself, why do they have so much power today? Right? Why is there so much, why is there so much power today by them? Especially what's going on today. What's the simple answer? Simple answer is the Zohar says that when did Yishmael do circumcision? Yishmael did circumcision at the age of what age? 13. He was 13. So he was rewarded, and his offspring were rewarded, 100 years of domination or power in this world for every year that he did circumcision, i.e. 13 times 100 is 1,300 years, which is right about the time that their time is up right now, right? That they've had dominion, in different areas, in different things. So the Muslims themselves, in general, in general, the way, they say it and they radicalize it or whatever, is the fact that they are going to be a thorn in our side till the end of days. Now, no one could have really imagined that before 9/11. The prophecy of the Malbim, we said before, 100 years ago, it's going to be a war, tremendous war. This war of Gog and Magog between Edom, the Western world, Esav, and Yishmael. And they're going to be fighting about religion, right? And differences of opinion in religion. They're going to say, why are we fighting, killing each other? It's all the Jews' fault. They start to move, march to Jerusalem, and that's when the Messiah comes, and, and that's it. That's going to be the end of days. Now, before 9/11, I would have imagined such a thing. So the issue over here is that, to fight against them, see, my Rebbe says a lot that you got the Muslims, even like Jerusalem not mentioned in the Quran and all these other things, but they're willing, like, if you go against them, meaning you go on the Temple Mount, you want to show it's ours, which everyone believes it's ours. Right? There's no question even the Muslims understand that. Yeah? But they believe in the lie, and they're the biggest liars in the world. So even Jews that go up in the Temple Mount, that's an affront to them. Now, Jews shouldn't go up there. It's forbidden for Jews to go up there. Right? Most ultra-Orthodox rabbis today hold it's forbidden to go up there because we don't know exactly where the Holy of Holies is. You get spiritually cut off and go up there. So Jews shouldn't go up there, but if Jews go up there, it's a provocation. Now, someone could say, if you live in Jerusalem, it's a provocation for them. Yeah, that's also true. But you go up there and you want to show that that belongs to us, they're going to fight to the death. Even if it's a lie. So Marebi says it's pretty amazing. They're willing to fight to the death for a lie. We have to be willing to fight for the truth. That's the thing. We got to fight for the truth and bring the light out. Yeah, so, for them, people think what they want. You talk about immorality goes on, in their groups. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? Kind of crazy in a lot of ways. So, the only way we're going to be able to set things straight is, I agree, is by perfecting ourselves, and repenting, doing tshuva. That's what's going to change. That's the only thing that's going to change. We can do it ourselves, or God forbid, make us do it. Put the absolute fear of him in us with everything going on right now. Someone asks, is there a difference, or a big difference, let's say? Is there a big difference between one God and God is one? I don't know. Right? If you say God is one, you're saying God is unique. Right? God is one literally means there's no other gods but him. Right? Again, basis of the first principle of the Rambam and the 13 principles of faith. That being true, you're saying there's no other gods. Now, what does no other gods mean? Idolatry. So that knocks out idolatry. Now, if we say God is one, what's the difference? Right? One God can certainly mean he's absolute. He doesn't change. Morality is not relative. That 100% is true. Right? Why is there a difference? I wouldn't say necessarily there's a difference. It can mean the exact same thing. One God can mean that God is absolute. I mean, how do you say not that way? Right? How do you say that God is one? And that doesn't mean that God is absolute. God is one does not mean God is relative. It means he doesn't change. It means he has no needs. It means he's not lacking anything. So if I say God is one, isn't that the same thing? If I say there's one God, what does that mean? You want to tell me it means he's not unique in the world? That there's morality that's relative? I don't think that's what you mean. One God can absolutely mean that he's absolute, no pun intended. Right? And that God is one is the same. I don't think there's that much of a difference. There are the first two principles of the 13 principles of faith are that God is one. Right? God, meaning God is absolute. And God is unique. That's not the same thing over here. Right? That's totally not the same thing. One God and God is one is the same. To me, it sounds the same. Right? I don't see any difference. There are also other religions claim to believe in one God. Yeah, but again, even if it's not idolatry per se, they don't believe like we do. I don't think there's any question about that. Right? That's probably true. Someone here says the observant Jew in Israel told the missionary that he could kill him and it'd be a mitzvah. Okay? Missionaries, big mitzvah to really take care of them. Being out missionaries, people say, oh, it's terrible. Desecration of God's name. Well, why? They are makti as the rabbim. They're causing people to go astray. They're looking for Jews to missionize. Right? I mentioned last night in Pirkei Avos, that, at the end of the day, they're, that, Renaud Weinberg, bless the memory, the head of the yeshiva of Eshet Torah, said, had a guy come in and he had this missionary with him. And he said, I just want to, you brought this guy? But, so, he says, here, I'm going to do one thing here, and you'll probably see that you probably don't want to hang out with this guy. Right? So he tells the missionary, he says, can I borrow your watch? Can I have your watch? He's got to give it to him. He says, what are your shoes? Can I have your shoes? Now your socks? Can I have your shirt? Basically stripped him down. So after this guy gives him all his clothing, all his stuff, can I have your wallet, credit cards, all these things, this guy's in amazement. This guy's you're giving him everything? He's got to give it over. He's got to give it over. So, is it a mitzvah to embarrass them? Yeah, you don't have any problem. I spoke about this last night. You don't have any problem embarrassing them. Right? Not at all. Making fun of idolatry, embarrassing them, right? Embarrassing them in public, not a problem. Care how the rest of the world looks at it. We don't care. Right? We don't care. They deserve to be embarrassed. They're causing other people to go astray. One of the worst transgressions you can do. It's even worse than when the person transgresses. Yeah? Big mitzvah. Right? Someone here says, tell a missionary, you better be careful. Get three of my friends to beat the stuffings out of you, keep doing what you're doing. That's not a problem. According to us, it's not a problem. Whether you should do it or not, it's a different issue, but according to Judaism, no. Someone here says study Islam when I studied Arabic in college. Okay. I can assure you that God, Allah is not the same. Now, function the same way, commandments, killing. There's a difference of opinion. I'm just saying, there's a difference of opinion. Right? Whether you're right, what they call for and what Judaism is two totally different things. True. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is, do they believe in one God? That's the issue. That is the issue. So if the issue is about belief in one God, according to many rabbinic authorities, regardless of what they say in their book, that's wrong and that's crooked and everything else, many rabbinic authorities hold, no question about it, they believe in one God. Now you're going to say, how can they believe in the one God and say, hey, you're allowed to murder this and that? Okay, they veer off. They 100%, they veer off. I didn't say they're exact, that they're saying, the same thing. I didn't say that. Maybe I implied it, but I definitely didn't mean that. Right? The point is they believe in one God. Right? But you got to say, how can it be the same God we believe in because God's benevolent and this and that? They call for murder and butchering and this. You're right. That doesn't mean they don't believe in one God. That doesn't negate the fact they believe in one God. It's just not the same God, that we believe in, what the Torah says. You're right. You're right. But my point was that there is an opinion, or there are some opinions that they're multi-deities. There are some, I'm just saying, there are opinions like that. We personally, practically speaking, we hold it's not idolatry. We hold it's wrong. It's a made-up religion. But we also agree they believe in one God. Are they going to believe the same God we do and what we do? No. Right? That's not necessarily a contradiction. You're right. The whole book is messed up. It's based on a false religion. I get it. Right? That is no question. The only question is they believe in one God. Right? That takes them out of idolatry. That's the point. Is they take them out of idolatry. That's why somebody, a secular Koranist, as wacky as they are, right, as this person is, saying, yeah, if we're not going to deal with Noahides, whatever, we should allow, non-Jews to be Muslims because they believe in one God. Now, why would we do that? Even if I agree they believe in one God, even if it's not necessarily our God that way. Okay. They're the closest to Noahides. Good. right? With their belief in one God. Okay. Even if the Jews don't deal with Noahites, let's say, we're not doing our job right, why would I send them a false religion? I would never send them a false religion. That wouldn't make any sense. They're monotheistic. Okay. Can't send them something that's false. Not allowed, certainly forbidden to do that. They said, what do you mean it's false? I gave two examples. Where historically they're inaccuracies, just like the church, just like many things in Christianity. Two major discrepancies in the Quran itself. So after I mentioned them, they said, that doesn't really matter. That's only the story. What do you mean? If Muhammad you consider a prophet, he doesn't get the story wrong. He doesn't make an 1,000-year egregious error twice. If the book is false and you find something false in the book, it doesn't matter. The false book. God does not make mistakes. Doesn't make 1,000-year discrepancies either. Oh, that's only the narrative. God forbid we found a discrepancy in the Torah, we wouldn't be keeping it. All you need to do is find one. You find one discrepancy where the Torah is not true, knock the whole thing out. You knock the entire thing out. I got two things against Islam. 1,000-year discrepancies in both. Can't make that kind of mistake. Can't do that. Oh, that's the narrative. The mistake. The serious mistake. Forget everything else that it says. I'm not even interested. I'm just saying, you can't make such egregious historical inaccuracies. If God is who he is, he doesn't make mistakes. Go on, you can say, JC was in Hebron or was in Jerusalem. Where was he? Can't be in both at the same time, even if he could walk on water. So where was he? Was he in one place or the other? What's your favorite color? Corduroy. Come on. You don't make such a mistake. You don't have the Gospels making such a mistake, the historical inaccuracy of going up to King David, through genealogy. They don't go to the same genealogy to get to King David. That's a serious mistake. Serious mistake. Now forget the mistranslations and other things. You got plenty of them. Yeah. But how can you say this is the written book of God and this and that when you have serious mistakes? But it goes beyond that. Because even if I would agree, it's monotheistic. Yeah, forget about what they say, it doesn't matter. Right? Even if it's monotheistic, they go against the prophecy of Moses himself. It's called Kiddushei Dat. It's a made-up religion. You cannot go, Moses himself says. God says Moses is my trusted prophet in front of 3 million people. You cannot go against what he says, God said. And Moses said you can't add or subtract to the Torah. Can't go against what the Torah says. So how can you say we're not chosen anymore? How can you say, they have their reasons. Don't make any sense. Right? They'll have their reasons. But, systematically, you can't go against what he says. And if you do, the Rambam says it's a made-up religion. So even if you tell me the Muslims are closest to Noah, it's very good, and the non-idolaters very good, is it made-up religion? It's a made-up religion. Yeah. All right. Probably doesn't seem like Hashem's literally giving the whole world a preview of what's going to get ready to do. Again, we don't know how things work here. As we said before, it's a very interesting coincidence. Someone is a rabid anti-Semite speaking against the Jewish nation in horrific ways, drops dead of a heart attack. Yeah, very interesting. But he has to remember he was already going to die that day. That was already decreed. This is just how it happened. Yeah. So it's going to happen to the rest of the world. God can make everyone just like choke and die. Could. So it happened by Sancheir, right? An angel came, in the middle of the night, slaughtered his whole enemy, his whole army. Can he do that? Couldn't God do that as well? Could. Stop people mid-sentence. Is that good? Yeah. How it's going to happen? Anybody's guess. But again, it's a very interesting coincidence, but you got to remember, it's not the reason. It looks like it. People will say, look what he was doing. He got what he deserved. Okay, but you got to remember, it's not how it works. There was a divine decree already made, and this is how he died. But the decree was already made. It's not ipso facto. It means it doesn't happen straight away. A person says this, he dies straight away. It doesn't work that way. Right? Usually it doesn't work that way. All right, something about the Karaites. Someone asked, those are enemies of Israel's borders. Okay. Shem said, if you keep my ordinances, my statutes, your enemy will not enter your land. But they did. Right? What's the answer? Right? The Jews were thrown out of the land. You had the Greeks here. You had the Babylonians here. You had the Ottomans here. You had all the Crusades. Okay, they weren't living here. I mean, nothing really grew since the time the temple was destroyed until the Jews came back. Right? Until the Jews came back. Nothing ever grew here. There was nothing there. The place was flattened like a pancake, as Samuel Langhorne Clemens or Mark Twain, as he's known. He said, late 1800s, exactly what prophets say, and he wasn't a religious person, by any stretch. But keep in mind one thing. The Torah says at the end of the book of Leviticus, my language, chump don't want it, chump don't get it. Meaning, you don't keep Torah mitzvahs, God's going to spit you out of the land. Yeah? Now, what does that mean? He's going to spit you out of the land? It means another nation is going to come in and knock you out. Right? So yeah, the enemies of Israel's borders, how could they enter? You're right. You're right. To keep my ordinances and my statutes, they shouldn't be able to enter. So why they enter? The Muslims have a certain power. We mentioned that before. But it goes beyond that. Why would God allow them to enter? Give them, they had a portion in before we try to get rid of them. They have a portion here. To a certain extent. You got all these Arabs living here. Again, that's the merit. That's still part of the merit of the circumcision of Yishmael. But even so, you got holy cities in Israel that Jews can't even walk in. Hebron. Abraham bought it. Clear as day, bought it. $1 billion. They're like, maybe 1,000 Jews there. Maybe more. I don't know the exact number. Hundreds of thousands of Arabs there. Without a police presence, they'll all be slaughtered. Right? You got Shechem, Nablus, as it is known in English. Keep burning down Joseph's tomb. Any Jews live there? No. Also, we acquired it. Bethlehem, same thing. 3 major areas that Jews conquered, that we bought legally, and no Jews live there. Or very few Jews live there. Mind-boggling. So what's the answer? My answer is very simple. Where did Caleb ben Yefuneh, Caleb the son of Yefuneh, where did he go pray? Before the whole thing with the spies. Moses changed Joshua's name to Joshua. Gave him divine protection. Where did Caleb go? Caleb went to Hebron, second holiest place outside Jerusalem. Cave of the Patriarchs. Dangerous place. There's no question. Yeah, mind-boggling. So why do you have so many Arabs there? We have so many Arabs in other places. Right? So it's one of two things. I think it's still the merit of that circumcision that they're still getting benefit from Yishmael. And the others, because we don't deserve it. Because of our sins, we don't deserve it. So how could you have Muslims and others try and take over the country, this and that? Because we don't deserve it. Because of our sins. That's simple explanation. 100% simple explanation. Someone asked, what made people to abandon Hashem and lost their bitachon with other created gods? Yeah, all right, tell me the answer. What's the answer? Because people want to see what they see. Zoroastrianism, I don't know if it's so much in vogue today. But Zoroastrianism believes the good God's a bad God. And that's a lot easier to understand in a certain way. Why? Because if we believe God is all good, then why is there evil? Why is there suffering? Why do bad people have it hard? Right? And evil people have it easy. Age-old question. So when you have multiple gods, it's very easy. Blame this one, blame that one. They don't take as much responsibility. You have to remember something else. The Emunah Bitachon is something, faith and belief in God is something you got to work on daily. If you don't work on it daily, what happened in the desert? They got the manna every day. Got double portion on Friday. This went on for 40 years. So God was working on them to flex their Emunah muscle. But they said, old Mother Hubbard ain't nothing in the cupboard. Right? Ain't no food today. What's going to be tomorrow? Well, we got manna yesterday. We should get it today. We got the day before. But who says? So where was their Emunah Bitachon? There was some lack. Some lack in their Emunah Bitachon. And their belief and faith in God. This is the greatest generation in the history of man. So where did they make the mistake? They didn't think they're on the level. One reason. They didn't think they could reach that level. And God thought otherwise. Had they had proper belief and faith, they wouldn't have, they wouldn't have wandered around the desert for 40 years. They would have gone straight to the land of Israel. That would have been it. Well, it didn't happen that way. These people were like giants. We were like grasshoppers in their eyes, blah, blah, blah. Very good. Very, very good. So what happened? They didn't believe God. God took them out of Egypt. These are the people who came out of Egypt, survived. Saw God face to face in Mount Sinai, whatever that means. God couldn't take care of these giants. They didn't believe they had the merit that God would help them. So, there's a lack there. There was a lack, but again, it's something that needs to be strengthened at all times. So it's not inconceivable. But you're going to, it's not hard to understand. You'll say, but this is the greatest generation of all time. They saw God face to face on Mount Sinai. What's that going to say about us? We're in trouble, yeah? How can God expect anything of us, yeah? We're a cream puff generation. True. Still have to work at it. Because someone will say, if they had trouble, what does it say for us? It doesn't matter. We got to work hard at it. People want the easy way out. They want everything to be easy. Coppin's laws, everything, everyone's a big Baal Pitachon. Everyone's got the greatest Emunah in the world. They got money in the bank and everything is good. Moral, and they have health and they have other things. Things start to go wrong, everyone questions. Everyone questions. Trying this, I'm trying that. This isn't working. That's not working. Okay. Life, God doesn't have to answer you. He gives you life. He doesn't have to give you anything else. Doesn't owe you anything. You can say, but I'm working so hard and life is hard. You're right. There's no guarantee for nothing. People forget that. People think I have this coming to me. You don't have anything coming to you. Right? I mentioned last night in Perkei Avos, get a hoodsie. What? You think that, the Mishnah Perkei Avos says that you shouldn't think you're so great. You shouldn't be haughty. You're created. What were you born for? To learn Torah as a Jew. You're born to learn Torah. Very good. So if you accomplished a lot in Torah and you learned a lot, very good. But that's what you're created to do. Right? So Chofetz Levavo says, students already asked, why do you get reward for our mitzvahs? Why do you get reward? You're already given it. God, what does he do? He gives you life. This is what you're obligated to do as a Jew. You want a hoodsie? Right? Mentioned last night, hoodsie, Dixie cup. Right? Dixie cup made out of, you have a chocolate vanilla ice cream with a wooden spoon, made by the company called Hood. Right? It's growing up back in the day, they called it a hoodsie. So God's going to give you a hoodsie. Why is he going to give you a hoodsie? Why in the world is he going to give you? He's going to give you a reward. You don't deserve reward. You don't deserve reward because that's what you're created to do. Comes on the Chofetz Levavos, and Chofetz Levavos says in duties of the heart, what does he tell you? Why do you get the hoodsie? Because God did an act of chesed. He's going to give you nothing. You're supposed to keep his law because he wants you to keep it. Finished. You do what he tells you to do. You want a hoodsie? You don't deserve it. Why is God going to give it to you anyway? Why should he give it to you? What's the simple answer? Chesed. He did an act of loving kindness. 1 second here. See if there are any other questions. What if that idol worship is a child? Yeah. They say heretical things. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Child's being brainwashed. Yeah. Child told being brainwashed. You know, that's the whole question. That's the whole question. One of the early commentators asked, if the parents go in the wrong direction, okay, they're liable. You know, what about their child? Child's being brought up that way. Yeah. Is that child liable? They're liable. They're still liable. Starting to point out what's going on, you know, and how a child can be, you know, how it can be taught and whatever. True. You know, people think it's only a problem of Hamas and you know, in Gaza. What do you think all the people they trained? What about that whole generation? You know, anyone see those videos, which I don't think you should watch? You know, they mutilated bodies. The quote-unquote regular Gaza people, they're jumping up and down, screaming, spitting on these bodies, mutilating these bodies. They're all the same. What people don't understand. And you think the Palestinians and the territories, quote-unquote, in Israel, they're any different than Hamas. They're also the same. They're not different. Totally indoctrinated. But they all believe the same thing. Not just the, you know, few people that have power. It's everybody. Few people actually get out of it. Most people, they believe it. 100%. Why are the Christians being spit out of the land? You'll be surprised how much Christians own here. How much the Vatican, the old city, how much they own. Kind of crazy. Why aren't they being spit out of the land? Good question. Let me ask differently. Why have so many Jews, more than anyone else, been killed in JC's name? I don't have an answer for that. I have no answer for that. One person had such an unbelievable impact on the world, whether he did the things his disciples said or not, or they made it up or whatever it is, doesn't really matter. This person came on the scene, let's say, and created havoc. Havoc. How many thousands of Jews were killed, murdered in his name? Thousands. Forget about missionaries. Thousands killed. Kiss the cross or die. Killed. Butchered. That's my question. What merit did this person or figurative person or whatever have that so many Jews should be killed in his name? I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer on that. Why should Christians be here? Because God wants them here for whatever reason. He'll take care of them. I don't think there's any question. Right? They shouldn't have a portion of anything here. True. They're making a lot of money, renting a lot of land here. No question about it. Yeah. But, you know, we're our own worst enemy. You know, if it wouldn't be for backlash or whatever, you'd take all these churches and burn them to the ground here. But they'd be afraid to do it. Right? Right? But it's not, someone asked me this years ago. It's not the Israelis' fault. Right? They don't know any better. They totally don't know any better. But the reality is, they should be burning down every single church here. They weren't afraid of backlash. Why not? Rambam says clear. Outside of Israel, nothing to talk about. Inside Israel, the more so. Yeah. That's not what's causing our problem. We're causing our own problem. That's a different issue. The reason things happen against the Jewish people is because of what we do. And it gets exemplified what goes wrong in the land of Israel. You know, biggest gay capital of the world is in Tel Aviv. That's a serious problem. Right? I mean, Rabbi would say that's the creation of Shabbos in this country. That going on. And all kinds of other things. He goes, that's 10 times worse than what Hamas and Hezbollah can do combined. He said, I don't care what they do. What they do is irrelevant. It's what we do that matters. It's the actions of the Jews, especially in Israel, that we got to be better. We got to be stronger. We got to keep what we need to keep. Because if any Jew is going to come to Israel and they're going to live here and they're going to pollute the land, better they don't come. They're going to pollute the land wherever they go anyway, but it's worse here. 10 times worse. Because you're in the palace of the king. God doesn't just like destroy places, for the sake of destroying them. Sodom, okay, they were extremely evil, but the Ramban and others say, so why did he go to such task to wipe it off the face of the map? Because he couldn't stand it in his own backyard. So he wiped it out. That's the fear that my Rebbe says. The fear is Jews that transgress in Israel. That is the biggest fear. Because that gets exemplified. If they transgress outside of Israel, it's also bad. Make no mistake, it's also bad. But you transgress in the palace of the king? You're messing around in the palace of the king? This is a serious problem. So this my Rebbe says is the biggest fear. This is the biggest fear. And that is that, Rav Mordechai Pogramansky, before Sternbuch left, want to get a blessing from him, he was the Tel Zailu. He survived World War II miraculously. He wanted to get a blessing from him before he left, and he said, Mordechai Pogramansky tells him that all the Lashon Hara you speak, God forbid, in Eretz Yisrael, you know what the punishment is? Anytime you sin in the land of Israel, you know what the punishment is? I could never live there. I'd be too much afraid. So it's like, what, a blessing for me? Bon voyage, have a nice trip, something. He says, if you take on to be the best Jew you can be and you're going to guard yourself tremendously, he said, I'll give you a blessing to go. But he said the land could really spit you out. Can make life, impossible. Totally impossible. Why? That reason. Isn't it bad if you're sinning outside the land? Yeah. If you're inside, if you're in God's, if you're in the palace of the king and you mess around, you're not doing what you should be doing, worse. 10 times worse. So we're our own worst enemy. The person can ask, these terrible things that happen with the Arabs and this and that. Yeah, because we're not doing what we need to do. During the 6-Day War, I think I mentioned this yesterday also, or last night in Pirkei Avos, the Brisker Rav, said, by the 6-Day War, they were preparing for 80,000 dead. 80,000 dead, it's huge. Probably like 400,000 today. Yeah. How many people were killed during the 6-Day War? Like 2,700 or something. That's uncanny. That's a huge thing. Okay, it's 2,700 too many. But it's only the power of Torah learning, that saved them. They were preparing for 80,000. 80,000 deaths. Torah protects. That's what we have. The power of Torah, the power of prayer. That's what we have to protect us. You need the army. No one says you don't. 100% you need the army. But that's where the real protection comes. That's where it comes. But here it's again, we have the greatest level of Torah learning, and Torah, you have the greatest level of impurity at the same time. It needs to be offset, right? You need to give to the evil inclination, his fill also, right? So therefore, you need both. Both are working against each other, right? But again, the evil inclination is on its last legs over here. The Arabs on their last legs. They're going to be a thorn for a while, but that's it. They get wiped out eventually. But we got to live through it. It's scary times, no question. But we have to be better, no question. The better we are, the less these things happen. Doesn't mean the evil inclination is not going to come and whatever. Somewhere mentions that it was more conservative. Yeah, in some ways. But some of the biggest leftists are here. No question. I can tell you by the way people dress, it's like Europe. You can say America's bad also. Okay. Right. It's, I don't think it's, I think Europe's pretty bad. Israel's right there. So, you know, you don't understand how, I don't even want to go into this, but, how far left this country is in so many ways. In so many ways, right? Without getting into it, this whole thing with the judicial process and what's going on, and the start up with protests again after the war is over. But, you want to talk about the leftists, the cronies? How can the Supreme Court perpetuate itself by itself? In other words, you have your own lawyers, your own Supreme Court justices, and they're the ones putting others into power when other people leave. That's not cronyism? That's keeping their agenda? What are they afraid of? Everybody, the left and the right, understand needs to be changed. Right? But who's behind all this? It's the left. Spewing lies, garbage being funded by Europe and other places. Conservative depends what you mean by conservative. There's big leftists here. Big time leftists here. There are people convinced even people are held in captivity. Guaranteed. The biggest supporters of Hamas are still going to say when they come out, we got to do more to help them. These people are sick. Can't help them. They don't want to be helped. They come and mutilate, destroy, and all this. It's insane. Totally insane. It's measure for measure. Oh, they helped them and they did this and they did that. They brutalized them. Took them into captivity. That's what you're doing with. But I guarantee if they ever come out, they're not going to say, oh, these barbarians, this and that. They're not going to say that. What are they going to say? We should have done more for them. We should have given more to them. They don't believe we should exist. Their charter says Jews should not exist. That's why they've broken every single thing. Not interested in a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution where Israel doesn't exist. That's what they want. And the leftists keep thinking if we give more and more and more, but they've broken every agreement. Didn't I say I wasn't going to get into politics? They've broken every agreement. How can you deal with people like that? So now people, woke up a little bit, to what happened. But they'll still say, who's going to take over afterwards? Moderates? There are no moderates. Understand, there are no moderates here. They want our destruction, nothing to talk about. So you're going to have leftists for sure. When the dust settles, they're still going to call for a two-state solution. People were brutally murdered. Burned to death, whatever, all kinds of things. You're not making peace with these people, for goodness sakes. But you got this leftist mentality saying, we don't want to fight any wars. We don't want, live and let live. They don't want to. That's the point. They don't get it. They don't want to. Because they're bored and bred on this hatred. This hatred doesn't go away. Doesn't disappear. It's crazy. It's insane. So we're the leftists here are just bad as anywhere else, if not worse. If not worse. There's no connection to nothing. I've heard certain things. I don't know if it's true or not true, so I'm not even going to say it. If even a quarter of it's true, it's pretty disgusting. But it just goes to show, politicians you can't trust. Even the ones on the right become leftists when it suits them, and they'll sell out anybody. Look what happened in Gush Katif. Thousands of people thrown out of their homes. They were given good deals to go there, this and that, and there were people for years paying for mortgages on places they didn't have. They don't own. Disaster. Not only that, how do you send people to places you don't give them the right to protect themselves? I mean, I could have a whole laundry list here. You want to say it's a conservative place, you got to get the news from somewhere else. You got to get a real news source, see what's going on here. It's a mess. It's a mess. If it was up to the leftists, Tel Aviv would be the capital of the world. Jerusalem wouldn't be any different. The whole place would look like it. That's why most of the country looks like it is, secular. That's what they want. They want to uproot and destroy religion. That's how the state was founded. Yeah, he had some leftist idiot, absolute idiot. What's his big idea for conversion? A secular conversion. Does that make any sense to anyone? A secular conversion has nothing to do with Torah. This is like somebody's like, supposedly one of brilliant guy, brilliant mind, and this and that. Ignoramus. Ignoramus, secular conversion. Like I said, I could have a whole list of things that they say, that they want to do, that they want to implement. Leftist is not even a nice term. Not even I could go further. We're not going to do that. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked, and their concubines. Yeah, what are their concubines? No, we don't have concubines today. Right. There's the decree. There's the decree of Rabbeinu Gershom, can only marry one wife. That's it. No, we have no concubines today. Yeah, anything else? Let me see. Any other questions here? Good. Yeah, Sharon was known. They gave him when they had him in the government, before he became prime minister, he was in charge of housing. So he supported settlements all over. He sent people to go out there and this and that, and then he threw them under the bus. How do you explain that? What's the answer? So I'll end with the following joke. It's not not such a joke, but it's I have a story of a frog and a scorpion. Right? Scorpion says, "Let me hop on your back." It tells the frog, "Let me hop on your back," and you swim across the way, and I'll get there. So the frog thinks about it. He goes, "Why would I do that? It's if I do that, you're going to sting me." Scorpion says, "What are you talking about? If I sting you, you're going to die and I'm going to drown. Yeah, so it doesn't make sense for me to sting you." So the frog thinks about it. He says, "Yeah, okay. It sounds like a good plan." So he tells the scorpion, "Hop on my back." So the frog starts to swim. He gets a little bit of way out. And what happens? Scorpion stings him. So the frog's like, "What are you doing?" He says, in a few seconds, poison's going to hit. I'm going to drown and, I'm going to die and you're going to drown. Right? So what does the scorpion answer? So the scorpion answers, what are you talking about? This is the Middle East. This is the Middle East. That's the way it works. Yeah, I'm going to end on that. Somebody asked just one other thing. Isn't the scripture that Noahites would be like concubines? I don't think so. Find me a source on that. But we're not going to be able to marry Noahites. Jews cannot marry non-Jews. So how does that help if they're a concubine? Yeah. So if you find me a source, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Sunday to 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, Q&As, Book of Leviticus, Ethics of Our Fathers, controversial issues. You want to send me an email, RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBI, ChaimKoffman @gmail.com, which I'm a good beginning.